Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mr. Abdullah Amin is talking, and welcome to our biology lesson for grade 7. Today, inshallah, this is the last part number 3 of Unit 2, Lesson 1, which is talking about bacteria, archaea, and viruses. Inshallah, in this part, we are going to talk about viruses, especially viruses, okay? We're going to talk about the characteristics of the viruses, the shapes of the viruses, and one important question: are viruses living or not living? Okay, so let's start by the characteristics of the virus. Okay, viruses, guys, or virus is a microscopic particle that cannot replicate on its own. We said particle, not organism. Okay, so viruses is a microscopic particle that cannot replicate, which is cannot reproduce, okay, by its own or on its own. Okay, guys, so this is a virus, microscopic particle that cannot replicate by its own. Okay, all viruses, guys, are small. Okay, they are smaller than the smallest bacteria. Okay, you can imagine that, guys, maybe one drop of the blood can fit to 5 billion viruses. Okay, so they are smaller than the smallest bacteria. What the virus made up of, guys? The virus made up of a protein coat and the genetic material. Okay, so the protein coat is like the cover for the virus that give the cover that give the virus its shape. And the genetic material, we know that the genetic material, it's DNA, but the virus maybe contain DNA or RNA. Okay. Another thing about the virus, guys, the virus can destroy the cell, often destroy the cell. Why? Because the virus needs a cell to replicate. It cannot replicate by its own. It cannot make a new viruses by its own. It needs a host cell, or it needs a living cell to replicate inside it. That's why it destroys the cell. Okay. And the viruses, many viruses can cause diseases. It can infect plants, animals, people, and also even they can infect prokaryotes, which are single-celled organisms. So virus almost infect everything, infect every living thing. Okay. This is about, guys, some characteristics about the virus. What about the shapes of the virus? The virus, guys, have many shapes. As you can see, guys, some of viruses have a crystal shape, and some of them they have cylinder shape. Some of them, this shape is called phage, and some of them they have a sphere shape. Each virus, guys, it has a specific structure that can fit to specific type of cell. So some viruses can infect plants only, some viruses can infect animals only. Some viruses can infect both plants and animals. Some viruses can infect just only bacterial cells, and so on. Each virus is specific for a specific cell. Okay, this is about the shapes of the viruses. Okay, the question is, or the most important question is, are viruses living or not? We know that, guys, the virus is composed of, or it's contain the genetic material and the protein. The genetic material, as we said, it's maybe DNA or RNA, and the protein, which is protein coat that give the shape for the virus. Okay, so in this case, the virus have something like living thing because it has genetic material and has a protein. But actually, guys, the virus cannot grow. We know that all living things can grow at least a part of their life. Okay, so they can grow, and the virus cannot grow at all. Okay, the virus, guys, cannot obtain energy from the nutrients. All living things, they can obtain energy from the nutrients, but the virus not. Okay, guys, all viruses, guys, do not maintain homeostasis, unlike all living things. And homeostasis, which is maintaining maintaining a constant internal environment, or maintaining a stable internal environment for the organism. The viruses cannot maintain homeostasis. One thing else about the virus, they cannot respond to the stimuli. And the stimuli, guys, is any change in the environment. The virus cannot respond to this change. Stimuli like the sound, like the light, like some chemicals. So there is no response from the virus to the stimuli. And one important thing also, the viruses cannot replicate by its own. They need a living cell to replicate inside it. By injecting the DNA or injecting the genetic material of the virus inside the cell, and then this genetic material, it will control the cell's nucleus, and order the cell to make more DNA or more genetic material and proteins for a new viruses. So cannot replicate by its own. It needs the cell to replicate inside it. That's why we consider the virus as a non-living thing. So we can say, guys, they cannot function on its own and they cannot perform any life function. Okay, so the scientists considered the viruses as non-living things because all of these cause all of these. So, guys, the scientists consider the virus as a non-living particle, okay, because all of these reasons, okay, so they cannot grow, they do not use energy from nutrients, cannot maintain homeostasis, cannot respond to stimuli, cannot replicate by its own, cannot function on its own, and not perform any life function. Okay, guys. And now if you look at the page 86, you can find this question. Question number 15, identify, list 3 reasons viruses are not living things. Okay, guys. So think about it. You can find that, yes, they cannot grow. So this is one reason. They do not use energy from the nutrients. They do not maintain homeostasis, which is maintaining the stable internal environment. They don't have this characteristic, and they cannot respond to the stimuli, and finally they cannot replicate by its own. You can choose 3 of them and write it in the book. Okay, and this is everything about the viruses. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and this is the end of the lesson and end of the part 3, and inshallah see you next time.